Hey guys, my Bible blog is going to be backwards from what I usually do. I usually go God, humans, creation, and then life's purpose. This week I'm going to go life, purpose, creation, humans, and God. And humans and God are going to be kind of meshed together because when you talk about relationship, you can't not mesh them together. So that's fun. So with life purpose, obviously we're supposed to give ourselves to Him. And that's basically what I feel like I say every time, but it's so true and it's so evident. And so in Micah chapter 6, verse 8, it says, He has told you, O mortal, what is good and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God. He tells us, it says we're supposed to be humble, we're supposed to be we're supposed to be just, thanks. We're supposed to be just, and we're supposed to be so kind, and that's what our life purpose should be, because if we have those three things, we wouldn't be how we are now, and we wouldn't be selfish, we wouldn't be so many different things that our sin just derives from. In Micah, it also talks about creation, and how the mountains and the hills, how it's saying like, come, hear my judgment. God's saying like, mountains, hills, like, hear what I have to say, because the Lord of Israel has controversy with His people, and He would contend with Israel. God is wanting to be content, and it's saying like, even creation has a part of what us, mankind, has. And so it's basically where everything gets judged. And He was talking about, I have a popcorn kernel stuck in my tooth. Dang, sorry. And he's talking about how the mountains have something like to do with it, and so it's like so amazing how God doesn't leave out His creations. So going with humans now in Micah, it's saying like what we should do. And it's saying how all these things we should give up and be so willing to give up our firstborn son and for our body, for the sins of our soul. But we don't. We have all these things of how we should act, but yet we don't act upon it because we made ourselves our own God. And it's so hard to look at it and see, like, wow, I should be acting like this, but I don't want to because I rule my own life. This is my life. I'll do what I want. YOLO. And so it's so heartbreaking to see that. And then moving to Hosea, chapter 11. It's so heartbreaking. When I read this, I was like, oh, ouch, my soul. And it's saying how, how it says, verse 3, yet it was I who taught, let me fast forward, but they did not know that I healed them. And that is awful. We humans were so caught up in what we were doing and our problems and things like that. We did not realize God was in the situation to heal us. And that is what was so awful, because we were so oblivious in God's work in our lives. And I feel like we do that all the time today. Like, so many times, like, even I have been prime example for this. Like, I've been in a life or death situation, and I lived, and I'm just like, yeah, that's cool, great, let's move on with life, what's next, like, I'm invincible. And then I stop to think, like, that's a God thing, that I'm still alive. And it's so amazing. And it's so weird how I was just so oblivious to God and His hand over me. And that's exactly what the Israelites were doing there. So I'm also going to go on. Oh, this was also just so, I love this passage, it's great. In Hosea, he was saying, when Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. The more I called, the more they went from me. That is awful. I read that and I get so heartbroken because it sounds like a hurt father. Because it's saying like, I love them, and the more and more I try to reach out to them, they pull away. And I'm going to be so vulnerable right now. And it reminds me a lot of like my relationship with my like earthly father. And when I was younger, I didn't get to see much of my father. Like, my parents divorced, and I didn't really see him up until I was 13. And by the time when I did start seeing him, I already had my thoughts planned out, and I already had like my mind made up that he didn't matter and that I could make my own choices without him. And my father, my dad, he would always try to shape my life in a positive way, and he would try so hard to just be part of my life. And the more he tried and the more he called and tried to go after my heart and love me, I would pull back. And it was so hard to look at that now and be like, wow, like, why did I not know my dad more? And why did I not go and just sit with him and talk to him? And now we have a better relationship, so it's okay. But it's still like, I look back and I think like, how hurt was my father, my own father, when he looks back and thinks like, wow, my children didn't want me at that point, didn't want anything to do with me. And it's so hard because that's how God feels about the people he created. Because my dad physically helped create me, and God made us even with a soul and a spirit, and he has made us so much more than just us living beings. He's made us to have this more deeper connection with him. And the fact that we ignore him and run away from him, it's so heartbreaking, not only to him, but to us later in life. And we do not realize that. And God is hurting so much. And he does not want to, like, it was saying, let me find it. Like, I took them up in my arms, and I tried to heal them. And so God is like my dad at that point when he was reaching out to us, and he tried to heal, but we did not even realize he was there. And it's so, it breaks my heart. And then it says, like, I bent down to feed them. God gets down, and God gets so personal with us. It's so, gosh. And then it's saying, like, in halfway through verse 8, it says, like, my heart recoils within me, my compassion grows warm and tender. And then verse 9, it says, I will not execute my fierce anger, I will not destroy, for I am God and no mortal, the Holy One in your midst, and I will not come in wrath. That is amazing, because so many times I know, like, there's been situations where people will act out in anger with me, and like, in the moment of anger, if somebody holds back from being violent, that is such a strong thing to do. And God right now, he is withholding his wrath, withholding his anger from us. He's not going to destroy us like he has before. And it says he's grown compassion, grows warm and tender. He has so much compassion on us to be willing to try over and over again. At this point, Israel is going in such a downward spiral that it's almost like, guys, what are you doing? You're getting worse and worse. Might as well, like, run you off. I don't know why God didn't do that already. It's so amazing his passionate that he has. That is just, I love it. Because it also says, for I am a God and no mortal. Like I said, like, there's been times, like, when you get angry, you hold back. Like, if you don't hold back, like, bad things happen when you're mortal, and like, people get angry and then do things that they regret. But God is saying, like, I am not immortal. For I am God. I am the Holy One, and I will not come in wrath, because he can do things and not get so angry because he chooses not to. And I love that. And then comparing that with Micah, again, to me, it sounds like an upset father. And one thing that just, like, screams, like, hey, like, I'm a parent, and you, like, this reminds me, like, whenever my parents get upset, it's like, hey, Erica, I told you not to do this. Why did you do this? Do you think I would lead you down a path that's going to hurt you? You did this, and you are killing yourself if you keep doing this. And that's exactly what God is saying to the Israelites. And so I love chapter 6 in Micah, verse 3. It says, "O my people, what have I done to you? And what have I wearied you? Answer me, for I brought you up from the land of Egypt, and redeemed you from my house of slavery, and I sent Moses before you, Aaron and Miriam. O my people, remember what now King Balak and Moab devised, what Balaam the son of Beor answered him." I'm going to stop there. But basically, it's saying, like, God is crying, not crying out, but God's, like, sitting there and saying, like, what have I ever done to make you second guess me? I have been there. Why do you not understand? What have I done to weary you? And he's saying, like, answer me. Like, I don't, not that he doesn't understand, but it's like, please, like, it's uncomprehendable what you're doing. And so I really like that. And so yeah, these two passages really just hit home with me, and it makes me think a lot of my relationships between my mother and my father and I, and it just is, I feel like I need to go call my parents now. So I'm going to go talk to them and tell them I love them. Alright, see ya.